Tuning in to the nation. Let's go. The name is Law Nation. Let's get this thing going the best way possible. Draft week, the draft time for your mind. Hey, here's the thing that Cowboy Nation, we must understand. This particular team, heading into the 2022 season, will change. It will not be the same. Come on. And on top of that, Cowboy Nation, everybody that's listening, be sure to understand that even with all of the rumors, keep in mind there are smoke and mirrors. But that's just the way it goes. That's just how it flows. Let's go. Turn me up. Yo. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the nation, baby. See, Nick, what's good? Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Shout out to the notification gang. Appreciate y'all for jumping in. All right, before we get started, I want to play this audio of Michael Lombardi, and he did a wonderful job on 105.3 The Fan of breaking down everything, and we want to get into that, and we're going to talk about, bounce our heads off of what they talked about, and we're going to talk about this into large details. Appreciate everybody that could be here early. Hey, early bird gets the worm, second rack gets the chase.
Player too, right? You got to figure out what's in the heart of the player.
Michael Lombardi, former NFL GM, here on Sean and RJ on the Diamond Factory Hotline. Let's take it to the Cowboys, Michael, before the rest of the draft storylines. What do you think they should feel comfortable with in terms of what could fall to them with the way that these boards are setting up or the different depth in this draft where the Cowboys could be sitting pretty at 24, picking from what?
Well, I think this is a draft, really. This is one of those drafts where Bill Walsh used to get very angry when scouts said this is a horrible draft, because when I was working for him, we only had 12 rounds, and he would say to me, we only need 12 players. Like,
right.
We don't have to make everybody else happy. And he hated scouts to say it was a bad draft. But I think this is a draft that is really more about the horizontal board than it is actually the vertical board. And what does that mean? So the vertical board is you line the players vertically at the position that they play, running backs, versus top to bottom. The horizontal board is comparing who's the best player to draft, the running back at 62 or the defensive lineman at 62. Who's the better player? They're both graded the same, but they're not the same, right? And this is a draft where there's going to be a lot of players clustered in the same category of drafting. And if you get stuck on wanting to fix a position, you're going to take your margin for error will increase.
And
I think if I were Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones and Will McClay, I would basically say, look, today we're throwing out our team needs. We are throwing them all out the window. I don't care about anything. We are going to pick the best player that comes available to us when it's our time to pick.
I'm telling people all the time, the philosophy of BPA is the best way to go. Flat out best way to go. You can look at the draft in so many ways, right? You can also say to yourself, hey, I want to trade up and get up. No. You got 9 draft picks. And the most time we run this simulator, we see that, hey, even if you stay put, you can still get some dogs. And this draft is a big one, especially in key positionings, even if you say to yourself, I absolutely need, N-E-E-D, I need a wide receiver. You can literally pick up a wide receiver in the 3rd or 4th round. Now, I'm not saying that the Cowboys should do that philosophy, but they should look into this thing and draft BPA, best player available, or BAA, if you want to go that way, right? That all rhymes for your mind. Best available athlete. Either way, make sure it got the best in there, But do not reach and do not look at it like I need. Just go with whoever you have on your draft board. Let's listen to more Michael Lombardi.
Don't care who it is, what position it is, because 4 years from now, we'll be successful because we stuck with the guy who was the best. I know everybody says that, but not everybody does that. This draft, for me, is the most important way to handle that.
Well, fortunately for the Cowboys, it seems like they have a lot of needs. When you look at offensive line, D end, we now got a corner situation with Kelvin Joseph and wide receiver as well with Gallup hurt and Amari Cooper going to Cleveland.
All right, before he answer that question, let me ask you guys, the beautiful people that's watching this early in the morning. I know y'all beautiful. Y'all waking up. Y'all got the sunlight just finna wake up with you. Hey, how many snaps did Kelvin Joseph play last year? How many reps did Kelvin Joseph put out there on the field last year? How much of an impact did Kelvin Joseph brought to the table last year, right? And I'm not trying to sully or denigrate Kelvin Joseph. I know that he was a futures pick. But what game can you guys recall and say, man, that Kelvin Joseph, the way he flew out to the ball and picked it off, man, we need that, you know? So I don't want people to look into this draft and say, hey, we need a DB. Because, excuse me, how many reps? How many times did Kelvin Joseph made an impact to this particular team? So I don't want you guys to fall into the traps of the minds of reaching for a pick and saying, okay, since Kelvin Joseph got this cloud hanging over his head, and we all pray, we hope that all is well with him. But for dog sure, you shouldn't be looking at this thing saying, oh, I really need. And excuse me, for a guard situation, who had 15 penalties at guard? You know, I was looking at some of the stat lines. Don't you guys know that what Connor Williams had 15 penalties? Most good guards take 3 years to eclipse that number. Not 1, not 2, but 3 years. So I get it. Even if we had Connor Williams on this team, people will still say, hey, we need a left guard, right? So I'm not saying that Connor Williams' impact wasn't that great, but sometimes this could be a blessing in disguise. This could be, it flat out could be, but let's listen to more what they have to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a lot of teams could get. Let's put things in perspective too.
Put in perspective.
This draft is not about the Cowboys 2022 team. What Mekhi Parsons did last year, the sensational play that he had, is kind of rare. Show me many rookies that dominate the game like Mekhi did. No, it's hard. This draft is for the 2023 team. That's really what it's for. Those players that you draft on Thursday night and Friday and Saturday, their impact is going to be felt more in 23 than in 22. So you have to kind of take a look at the lens through the 23 year. And if you do that, you'll find yourself some really good players that can help you. And it doesn't matter. You know, I think so often, I tell this story all the time. Ron Wolf's sitting there in the draft, his first draft in Tampa Bay, and you know, it's the start of a franchise. He has the first pick overall in the draft. He's building a franchise. He wants to take a quarterback. Well, there was one quarterback, Richard Todd. He threw 17 touchdown passes, 7 interceptions. He was running the wishbone. You know, instead of taking the quarterback, he took Leroy Selman, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Take the best player.
Michael, I want to read just a couple names that were thrown out in the recent mock drafts for the Cowboys and just see if any jump out to you whatsoever, good or bad. Peter King.
All right, is the volume better now? I kind of raised it just a little bit. Is the volume a little bit better now? Let me know, Cowboy Nation. I appreciate you. I think it was Stephen White that let me know that the volume was low.
Has Linderbaum. Trevor Penning, Northern Iowa, was another selection for the Cowboys. Nakobe Dean, your linebacker specialty. And then Zion Johnson out of Boston College. Names that keep getting attached to the Cowboys. Any of those jump out?
I love Zion Johnson. I think he's a really smart player. I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he can play anywhere inside, plug and play, you know, left guard. He could play right guard. I think he's got the intelligence. He's a 5-year senior, which I really like. I don't think there's a chance that the Penning kid will make it to him. I think he's going to go. I think those offensive linemen are moving up the board. I think, we go through all these mocks and you got 22 receivers going in the first round. I mean, it's unbelievable. and the reality of it is football's won in the offensive and defensive lines. And so every guy in a mock draft starts passing out receivers like they're candy on a corner. And I think Penning will go much higher. I think if they could get Zion Johnson down there, I think that would be a great get.
Man, look, Cowboy Nation. I'm gonna tell you guys, receivers, boy, it is what it is. The receivers are like the diva, for real. In real life, the receivers are their eye candy, and you can sell so much with the receiver, right? And they are pretty much, you plug in a receiver, you can sit back and chill, and you'll say, hey, man, I got the receiver. Man, and when they make those one or two plays, you sitting there like, yeah. But I was looking at Tyreek Thornton's film last night, and at first I kind of gauged him off of one game, and then I said, you know what? I was wrong on this dude, man. I was flat out wrong on this dude. And some team is going to be happy because they drafted Thornton from Baylor late in the rounds, because think about it, he's 6'3". He's frail. He looked like he needed a sandwich. But man, he got some get off on his releases. I thought for sure when I looked at some of his tape or what have you, I just thought for sure, I said, man, he just a speed guy. Man, and I thought he had butter parquet for hands, because when you read a certain stat and you read a certain scout review, but when you turn on the tape for yourself, you say, nah, he developed into nosing the ball better, pulling the ball with his hands out of the sky. But watch, yeah, he do need some milk money out of the you-know-what. But that dude quick, and his releases, I look at his releases, and I said, yeah, he's going to be nice. Mark my word, Cowboy Nation, is going to be a wide receiver in this draft that a lot of people overlooked. That's all I'm gonna say. And it will not be the wide receiver that's drafted in the first round. It will be a wide receiver somewhere in the third or fourth round. Kind of like Cooper Kupp. What year was he drafted and what round was he drafted? Right? Y'all let me know. but now everybody look at Cooper Kupp and say, man, that dude's a dog.
Do you see them trading up? When you trade up for, is there positions you wouldn't trade up to get? How about that?
Oh, hold on. Before he answers that question, I have somebody who asked me, my guy, Mr. Wright, can he beat Preslaw? I haven't seen it. Yeah, now, here's the craziest thing. Here's the truth about press coverage. It's hard to press somebody when you motion them inside, right? I don't think nickel corners love to press and get down with it. And on top of that, it's hard to press when you have that safety man-to-man and there's no safety over the top. So if you got a safety help over the top, yeah, I'll press him. But shoo, you better not miss. He's frail. He's tiny. He needs some milk. Where my button at? He needs some milk. But you got to look at it like this too.
He needs some milk.
If you do press, and if you engaged in right, ooh, it's gonna be murder, she wrote. Murder, she wrote. Because he will take the top off the defense. So you're gonna at first you're gonna have to earn his respect. I get it, right? You gotta earn his respect. And then after one or two plays, you say, hey, coach, give me some safety help over the top. This dude killing me. And then you start playing him 5-10 yards off. And then you'll give him the underneath. That's what I would do to him. I won't even press him. I'll give him the underneath. And when it's time to hit him, I will make sure I bring everything I got on his body. Because as I look at his tape too, he don't have a lot of yak. He goes straight down. He's not that guy that's going to bust through some tackles or what have you. He's frail. And he's not strong man frail.
Well, I wrote about this on Beeson.com. I think every team has three different categories of people that draft, right? So, and you have to break it down. Part of being a draft person is you got to understand every team, how they draft, how they think, how they behave. And usually you can quantify that into 3 categories. The first category is the guy who's static, the Mike Brown. They're never going to move. George Young was this way with the Giants. He's just picking his picks. He's staying where he is. That's the static picker. Then there's the lover, right?
The
and
lover.
That's typically Jerry. Jerry falls in love. He wants to trade up and get a guy. And then there's the cluster guy, the guy who doesn't really care. He'll move to a cluster of players and pick whichever one's left. That's usually the guy who drafts the best. When you have a lover mentality, that's what Jimmy was. Jimmy was a cluster drafter. He wasn't a lover, and so that's why they were so successful. I think this is a draft where you've got to say, Jerry, this is not the time. We can't fall in love. This is the time where we can't give away assets just to get one guy. People say, well, there's no depth in this draft. The draft is really bad. We got to get one guy and get out of here. I think that's the wrong way to think of this draft.
Get your damn act together.
That Jerry talking to him right now. Jerry, look. I never want Jerry to lose his enthusiasm. I never want Jerry to lose that. I think his spontaneity is who he really is. Right, that guy, that risk taker, that maverick, that person that will go out there and make something happen. He'll go and do the risk move. Now, I get it. Jerry been muffled. Jerry been having his hand behind his back because all these years we've been sitting there saying, come on, Jerry, what's going on? And then as time revealed itself, how Weebay was on the wire. It's Stephen Jones. Daddy, no, don't do that. Daddy, don't do Dion. Daddy, don't do this. Daddy, don't draft this. Daddy, don't draft that. And it's been Stephen Jones being the guy that's pouring his philosophy and his beliefs onto Jerry, the maverick. Right, the owner that's willing to will and deal, the owner that's willing to risk it all. I'm quite sure that Jerry figured it out and said, you know what, I should never implemented the salary cap and was on that panel of implementing the salary cap rule for every team. No. He would have figured it out if it was just him, not his son in the mix. And said, you know what, we're going to do away and part away from the salary cap because I want to win. But it is what it is. Wildcat Jerry, yeah, MODA. Appreciate you.
Michael Lombardi, former NFL GM on the Diamond Factory Hotline. Who should go 1?
For me, if I were picking, look, I grew up with Al Davis. There would be only one number 1 pick in this draft, and nobody's even talking about him. There's a gentleman by the name of Jordan Davis, okay, who is 6 feet 6 inches tall. He's 345 pounds. He ran 4.85. No one can block him, okay? No one can block him. He's unblockable. People say, well, he's not a great pass rusher, okay? You put him over any center, and you tell him to knock the center straight back into the quarterback, he's the best pass rusher in the draft. He may not have any sacks, but he's going to affect the quarterback. You put him over any guard and tell him to walk him back, he's going to kill the guard. So for me, I don't understand how Jordan Davis isn't a top 5 pick. Only because people are, for Al Davis, he would be the pick. I think it's going to be Walker. I've been told it's Walker in Jacksonville, partly because he's got such great upside. But here's where I have a real difference with the mentality. These defensive ends in the league, oftentimes they are great rushers because they run past the quarterback and the quarterback steps up.
Right.
And when you go past the quarterback, you basically are now letting your defense play 10 against 11.
Right.
There's no place in football worse than running past the quarterback. In reality, I've yet to see the quarterback. Maybe you guys have. I don't know. The quarterback's yet to turn and run in that direction. He never does, right? So when you run past it, it does. But what bothers quarterbacks more than anything, go ask Dak Prescott.
That pocket.
When defensive linemen are in front of them, in the paint, coming bearing straight down on them, that gives them more. Whether they hit them or not, that bothers them. And I think Jordan Davis is one of those guys that can do that. I mean, he's big. Man,
Michael Lombardi spitting the truth, baby. I should have had an umbrella, Look, those big boys like the Russell Marylands of the world, they don't get the credit. They don't get the credit. You need big body inside. You really need it, Cowboy Nation. We couldn't look. A lot of people going back and forth with, we don't have Randy no more. Why? You know, and a lot of people look at it like, man, we don't have that guy to get off the edge. The reason why the Cowboys couldn't put a finger on Jimmy Garoppolo, because we didn't have anybody to push that interior back. The reason why the Cowboys sack total, collectively speaking, for the last 20 years haven't been on the top end of NFL teams, because we never really invested into the interior. DeMarcus Ware had all of those sacks with us a couple of years back, right? But can you imagine if we had that really, truly big boy inside? They thought about it. And shout out to Spears, shout out to Jason Hatcher and all of those boys. And they thought about it when they went and got Anthony Spencer. They was thinking on the edge. You know, they were thinking, hey, we're going to put pressure on the edge. But, baby, I come here to tell you guys, if you penetrate from the inside and create that havoc from the inside, where the quarterback is tap dancing like the late, great Gregory Hines, if the quarterback is worried about that pocket collapsing, ask Tom Brady. Tom Brady would love the edges coming off of him, but Tom Brady would sit back, look left, look right, and climb the pocket and carve you up. But if you look back at the teams, back when Tom Brady was playing in the Patriots land, it was from the interior that was able to knock him out of the playoffs, right? So, yes, Jordan Davis can bring that element. I don't want Michael Lombardi to pump him up and hype him up too much, because then teams start thinking, like, you know what? And I really, really, really want you guys to understand this right here. Understand this right quick. Yeah, penetration for the nation, baby. Penetrate. Understand this. When the Buccaneers got Big Vita Vea, he's not a three-down player. Stop thinking that you need a guy for 3 downs. I need a guy 3 down, 3 down, 3 down, 3 down. No. Most sacks happen in the late third and fourth quarter, when you wear down on that center, when you line up at zero, and that center got to call out the reads and everything else. And if you look at those linebackers for Buccaneers, they ain't no one to sneeze at. But I'm quite sure they pat Big Vita Vea on the back and say, man, I appreciate you for keeping it clean for me. My jersey, baby. I don't even have to wash it. I can wear it next week.
You're faster, stronger than Ndamukong Suh, and Suh was the first pick in the draft.
If you go look at the draft order, there are 5 to 6 teams in the top 10 that need a quarterback. Houston needs one.
Yeah.
Carolina, the Giants, you could argue, Atlanta, Seattle. Will any of them take a QB in the top 10?
No. I mean, I'll say this. Davis Mills went in the third round. I don't think there's a quarterback in this draft better than Davis Mills. And he went in the third round last year. I mean, everybody made fun of Mac Jones. Mac Jones would be the elite player in this draft. I mean, look, there's just sometimes you don't have a quarterback. Since 2000, since the turn of the century, since we all celebrated Y2K, there has only been one draft that has had one quarterback picked in it. In 2013, that was E.J. Manuel. Every other draft, there's been 2 quarterbacks, and yet we're still talking about teams needing quarterbacks. Just because you pick one doesn't mean you're getting one. Like Malik Willis has never thrown a touchdown pass against the Power 5 team. Is he athletic? Sure. Why did he leave Auburn and go to Liberty? You know, Cam Newton left Florida and went to Auburn. You know, guys leave big programs, they go to big programs. Why you had to go down a level? I want to know. Kenny Pickett's a nice player, but is he going to play 17 games? Is he going to last with that body? Matt Corral's a good player. got
Get
some
him.
concerns whether he can handle the whole offensive package, what's going on off the field, and oh, by the way, he lacks durability. I mean, when you draft a position, you want to say we filled that position. You don't want to say we need something. We still need a quarterback. It's like Washington. You trade for Carson Wentz, you still need a quarterback.
Yeah.
Like that's
Oh boy. And that's what I was trying to tell my guy Louis T. He said they got Carson Wentz and he's buying into the ideology that Carson Wentz is going to turn them around. And I said, okay, Carson Wentz is going to break your heart, fam. And don't forget that his number one wide receiver plays for the Dallas Cowboys. His name is Trayvon Diggs, by the way. I get it. The draft is always a fickle number as it relates to quarterbacks. No one knows who's really that quarterback. And think about it. Matthew Stafford, first-round draft pick, he just got his ring, right? We've been waiting forever for Matt Ryan. We've been waiting forever for Cam Newton. He did his thing. He went to the Super Bowl, and he held an L just like Matt Ryan, right? So there's no guarantees as it relates to quarterbacks. It just depends on which system you go into. But I do like the ideology that you're trying to fill your draft in, right? But the Cowboys better not fall too much in love with these edge guys and sell the form to get Thibodeau. I think that Thibodeau will bring a lot to the table as it relates to ticket sales and a guy that can fly off and bend off to the edge on the edge right there, right? But then it'll go against all of the other things. If you were to do that, why even pay Dorrance Armstrong, right? I think that teams was not beating down the table, beating down the door, saying, hey, they want a Dorrance Armstrong, right? You should have waited until after the draft. And excuse me, Jadeveon Clowney did have 11 sacks last year, right? I'm going to be looking at every one of these edge guys that's in this draft, and I'm going to be waiting to see if they're going to get 11 sacks. I'm just going to be waiting because the Cowboys can ultimately, after the draft, I'm not saying that you do this before, but they can ultimately wait until after the draft and bring in Jadeveon Clowney. I get it. You can question his motor. You can say, yeah, he was a former first-round draft pick. He ain't really what he say he is, Law. But you can't paint me a reality or a world that Dorrance Armstrong is better than Jadeveon Clowney. I get it, right? But there's no way you can say, well, Law, according to this tape, he is better. Nah, man, stop it. You go and get this guy. And especially after that should be the first call. Jerry should pick up the phone after the draft and say, hey, Jadeveon, I know your stock done went down. I know people have a lot of reservations on your skill set. But, hey, you stayed in Texas before. You played in Texas for a long time. And Dallas is not that far from Houston. I know for sure we can put you up in a place. And you can at least put him in, and competition will be competition. You bring him in. And he may be, put it like this, he may be just like your boy D-Law. One of those two things that I can tell you. D-Law had the best ratings as it relates to stopping the run last year. Don't you know who was right behind D-Law in stopping the run? Jadeveon Clowney. So on those edges, if you have issues, dare I say, with this team with stopping the run, why not double dip in it? Go get him. Bring him in. Let's make this thing happen.
That's not what you want to do. And I think this is a draft where what happens is once the season's over, the agents start controlling the narrative because they're feeding information to the writers.
Right.
They're feeding information to the writers. And so that narrative becomes, oh, Malik Willis is hot. I mean, lately in the last day or so, you've seen 2 quarterbacks at most gone in the first round. And that tells you that they're finally talking to people that know what they're talking about and not the agents who are promoting the players.
Why is Deebo Samuel upset in San Francisco?
I think he's like a lot of California residents. I think he doesn't like paying taxes. I think that's probably a big reason. I think he's upset because He's a
joking.
South Carolina kid.
He
The pace is slow, and I think he kind of misses that. You go out there, it's a different world in California. The weather's wonderful, don't get me wrong.
It is.
But there's a lot going on out there that maybe he just doesn't particularly like, including the taxes. And
so you're not buying the usage, Michael?
Come on,
too much
Mike.
wear and tear, and he just wants to play receiver?
Here's why. Let me say this. I think Deebo Samuel is great, and I've said this on my podcast. He's Lenny Moore. People don't even know who Lenny Moore is. Lenny Moore is a Hall of Fame running back wide receiver. When he entered the National Football League for the Baltimore Colts, he carried the ball his first year 88 times. He caught 11 passes. The second year, he ran the ball 98 times and caught like 44 passes. I mean, he played both positions all throughout the game. All throughout the game. This is what Deebo does. If you line Deebo up at outside the numbers as a receiver outside, he's not going to win for you out there. He's just not. They jam him. He doesn't have the ability to get away. He's not going to separate. The lack of true speed shows up. When you move him inside and you make him a slot receiver where he can use his quickness and his ability to break tackles with that lower body, now he's a different player.
But before Mike Lombardi get into more details of that, I want you guys to do a little bit more research. Deebo, his skill set and his play is primarily from Mike McDaniels, not the necessary head coach that's there now. Where did Mike McDaniels go? He went to Miami Land. He was the guy. He was the brainchild that helped Deebo. They were not like this. They was like this. They were close. So now Deebo is looking at it like, hey, I've been featured in a way, whereas my guy is gone now. I can already see what's about to happen now, right? It's finna go back to the old way that they were trying to use me. And no, I want to go where I can be used the best. And I'm telling you guys, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors with that. But Deebo is a good wide receiver. And put it like this. Let's not relegate the man to just being a wide receiver. Deebo is a good football player. But now, asking for $28 to $30 million, that will make anybody say, you know what? That's a lot. That's quarterback money. I remember a couple of years back, that's quarterback money. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to get that going.
Now he's a different player with the ball in his hands. We talk about receivers often, right? Receivers, the number one thing they have to do is catch the ball. But the defensive back, besides covering him, he's got to be able to tackle him. The number two thing a receiver has to do is run with the ball. Samuel is hard to tackle.
He is.
Like, you could put a corner on him and say, you got him.
Sure.
But if the corner can't tackle him, does he really have him? No.
Last one. Will your Philadelphia 76ers be the first team in NBA history to blow a 3-0 lead after what happened against Toronto last night?
You guys are too young, but there used to be a TV show called Hawaii Five-0. And at the end of the show, when they arrested the guy would say, the head guy would say to
before my
Danny,
time.
The detective, book him, Dano, murder one. You can book they're going to lose. You can book it 4-3. You can book it. You can write it down. I've been saying it on my show on VSiN. Like, I've been calling this one. First of all, the series should have been tied at 2-2. The Sixers stole a game up in Toronto.
No doubt, man. All right, so that was Michael Lombardi. Check him out. And let me share this link with all of y'all beautiful people that's watching right now. Be sure to check out the Odyssey app. That's 105.3 The Fan. Brilliant guys, Sean and RJ show. Today, they're also talking about the presser, and it will be in a couple of hours, I believe, at the high noon. And we will get into more details about that. Now, be sure to check that out, that link that's in the chat right about now. Now, let's listen to, I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on this too, but I'm going to listen to Michael Gelkin. He was on G-Bag Nation the other day, and then we would rap back and forth with each other. Appreciate you, Alpha Red. Thank you for jumping in. Appreciate everybody, man, for being part of this episode as well. Early. I'm off all this week, so look, hit that notification bell. I may be live in the next 4 minutes from now again, so y'all make sure that I hit that notification bell.
Fits and projecting. This is much different, obviously.
From which you're sure the Cowboys pick would come from at 24, assuming they don't trade up.
Yeah, you need a pretty good cluster in terms of if you're a team and you're planning it. I know. My process is much different, obviously, than the Cowboys. When they formulate their cluster, they're thinking about different scenarios, different values. They're looking at position scarcity and fits and projecting who could be available. For me, I'm going to have like 6 or 7 mock articles written. So if the Cowboys draft player A, we'll be able to publish immediately, or player B, right, or C or D, and so forth. And then if they so happen to draft somebody who's not on the list, then it's going to be a furious write in order to get something on the website. That's more my cluster. Theirs is much more, they have a lot higher stakes than I do. But yeah, I would think we need to have several names in mind and then be asking yourself, all right, if this player becomes available and falls down to a certain point, or do we want to trade up? Is there value there? You have all these sorts of simulations as an organization, as a staff, to go through so that on draft day, nothing is a surprise to you.
How many of those stories, or how much of those stories would you have written before the draft even starts? Do you pre-write any of that?
Yeah, I pre-write them all. So probably a good 6 or 7.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's an annual tradition that is overall proves to be a tremendous waste of time.
My guy Hilton says, give me Travis Jones, one tech who can rush. Yeah, I like Travis Jones. I like John Ridgeway outside of Jordan Davis. Yeah, there are some guys that you can pretty much find in this draft to make some things happen. I just know for sure that Jordan Davis, baby, oh, my goodness, man. Yeah, Madman says 2 more days and the draft will be here, and there will be no more speculations, right? There will be tons and tons of film sessions of me going into great details, the good, the bad, the ugly, and what to expect on how these guys will be utilized in either Dan Quinn's system or Kellen Moore's philosophy, because I don't think it's a system or a scheme, right? It's just a Kellen. Look, that's how I'm going to have to say. Y'all remind me, when we talk about Kellen Moore, it's just going to be a philosophy, right? And the Kellen Moore's philosophy, if we're going to do it this way, or we'll do it that way. But Cowboy Nation, I can't wait, because that is when we remove all of the speculation and no more of that clickbaiting stuff. But I get it. People do what they got to do.
Hey, Michael, and you're outstanding at your job, and I really appreciate the coverage you have, and I think the fans benefit from all that. Okay, Cowboys are going to have their pre-draft meeting tomorrow with the media.
It's today.
First question out of your mouth tomorrow for Jerry Jones.
Why is Kelvin Joseph still part of this team?
There we go.
Damn act together.
Yeah, and I think it's the way I probably have a tendency to ask too long of questions, but I would probably not ask it so direct. I mean,
no, go ahead. Jerry will understand that. Just go right for it there. I think
now. The media, if they ask why Kelvin Joseph is still on his team, if they do ask Jerry Jones, and I guess his PR people will already debrief him, and they will say that they are still doing their due diligence. Right now, the case is ongoing, and right now, the Cowboys organization is behind their player to help develop him. And if any other news information leaks out or get out, we will act accordingly. I think that's how the Cowboys will handle the Kelvin Joseph situation and scenario. Because, for one, if they don't go to trial or what have you, then they don't have any more information. And the person that said that they squeezed the trigger already came forward and said that they squeezed the trigger, right? And it is as bad as this case is, Cowboy Nation. I hate to go over this in many times, but there's only one gunshot wound to the victim, right? And unfortunately, there's only 2 people that admitted that they said it happened. So you can't say, well, all 3 of y'all pulled the trigger. There's only one gun wound. So it's going to be one of those situations that Kelvin Joseph may surely walk away from this, and he's going to look back at it, and if he really knows what all that happened, he will forever have to live with this. But he will have to answer to the Creator, not to man. That's just the only thing about that, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I think certainly that's a question that some will ask. Is
Sure.
one of your players was in a vehicle from which two men allegedly fired several shots, one of which shot a 20-year-old man in the head and killed him, and your player did not notify apparently police for nearly a month before that contact occurred, based on the public being asked for help identifying the men who were in that surveillance video. Why is Kelvin Joseph part of this team? I think it's a fair question. It's one that needs to be asked directly, and it's one that the Cowboys know to expect because they understand as reporters those are questions that we need to ask.
So the fact that Kelvin Joseph has been part of the off-season program so far, and I agree with you. I was kind of thinking that maybe that there was going to be, hey, Kelvin, take some time off here, and then we'll bring you back after this. But are you hearing that there might be changes with Kelvin Joseph, though? Kind of, I'm hearing some whispers there might be, don't put the hay in the barn on this one yet.
I think it's an evolving situation. I know for Dallas police, it's an evolving situation where they're not ready to say that he won't be charged or that any of the other individuals who are in that black SUV will be charged. I mean, it's evidence is being collected. They're making determinations about who knew what and when and so forth. And so, there's a number of bodies who are leading an investigation on this. You have, of course, Dallas police. You have the Dallas Cowboys, and you have the National Football League under their personal conduct policy. So right now, as it stands, Kelvin Joseph is an active, able part of your Cowboys. But any one of those three at any point in time could act, and that could very well change the landscape of Kelvin Joseph and his Cowboys future, his Dallas future, his NFL future, and just his own personal, as an American citizen, free to roam wherever he wishes, citizen. That could very well change as well for him.
Man, I'm gonna say this once again. Jerry Jones is a billionaire. Not a millionaire, not a thousandaire. Lady came out a couple of weeks ago, said, I'm suing the Jones family. I have a right for a piece of some money. Just 3 or 4 days ago, it was literally just like this. News out of Oxnard, or news out of Dallas, or news out of anywhere, the Jones family, the lady that was seeking to sue Jerry Jones, is now withdrawn her lawsuit against the Jones family. She's now happy and satisfied, and then we don't hear no more stories of it, right? It just swept under the rug. And I'm quite sure if Rich Dalrymple was still with this team, we wouldn't even heard the first bit of that information, right? So I'm quite sure that this whole situation with Kelvin Joseph, Jones is already working his oil magic. And right now, the media and everybody else is scrambling and answering, trying to look for answers or what have you. And Kelvin Joseph is back on the workout facility, pumping weights, lifting iron, and going to try to be on the up and straight and narrow. That's just how it is. That's just how it is, unfortunately. Now, for the family, they can look back at this thing and say, you know what, this is terrible to have this guy to be able to still play in the silver and blue. How dare the Cowboys still support him? Well, there's a civil thing that you can always do. You can put him on a civil situation and recoup some good graces as it relates to his money. But outside of that, he's literally not arrested. It's crazy. Madman says we like criminals. Well, there's an old saying. If you pull back a lot of what these billionaires, how they got money, I don't think they did it the right in the legal way, So that's just how it goes. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes. That's a lot of hands that's touched with this as it relates to money that's not clean. If you think I'm lying, you start looking up the Rockefellers. And look, let me quit talking before all of a sudden. There's a YouTuber now missing. More news at 5. For talking too much.
Michael, do you think big roster moves are on the way after the draft?
Could be. Yeah, I think you look at this roster and, the Cowboys feel like they have enough flexibility where they can go various ways throughout the draft. But theoretically, we talk a lot about, offensive line. If they don't do it, certainly on Thursday, but, even day 2 in the second or third round, I think at that point it's time to talk about Eric Flowers. It's time to talk about some of these other free agents who might be available and what their options are.
No. We don't want Eric Flowers now. Come on. You better look. I would rather for the Cowboys to really look at Isaac Alacorn, as is how you say his man's name, and give him a shot. Bring him back. At least he'll show some aggressiveness and some nastiness before you bring in an Eric Flower. No. Look, after the draft, of course, I'm the one banging on the table and saying, hey, there are some guys out there that you can bring in as far as veteran, but let it not be Eric Flower. You might as well if you bring in Eric Flower, I'll raise you. Let's bring in Chaz Green. If you really want to make this a circus. Let's bring in Chaz Green. If we can't find an offense, look, Ball is not that bad. And I think that the Ball brother that's going to be, and it is the backup for the left tackle role for Tyron Smith. He's not that bad. Look up his tape, look up my film sessions on Ball, and you will see that Ball is pretty good. But let's listen to more of what these guys have to say.
Counting on day 3 to fill one of your most, arguably your most pressing roster need, that's just not the same as addressing your need. You may have drafted a player at your position of need. It doesn't mean you actually address your need. You need to truly invest at, say, your next left guard. And so, do the Cowboys have to draft an offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman at number 24 overall or on day 2? No, but if they don't, they absolutely need to do something afterward, by acquiring a veteran. And Eric Flowers, based on what season that he had last year at left guard for Washington, obviously not a strong team, but you can still find value there, and he's available. So that to me is an example of, a move that the Cowboys still could make based on how the draft goes or doesn't go on Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
No, Michael Gelkin, man. You my dog, though, but, man, what do you have with Eric Flower? What kind of – Look, no. Don't do it. All right, Cowboy Nation. Even if the Cowboys get Ed Ingram in the later rounds or what have you, I think that he will be pretty good at guard. I look at Marquise Hayes in the second round. You can pick him up, and I think that he will be beneficial to this team. There are some guys, Zach Tom. You can find some guys that you can bring in to help this team out. Now, J.C. Tretter, according to Brian Broaddus, according to him, he said that his body is breaking down on him, and he may look to retire with J.C. Tretter, Craig. But outside of that, man, come on, Cowboy Nation. I believe draft night the Cowboys will draft Zion Johnson. I just believe that this will be the pick for us. Mind over matter, Boston College, Zion Johnson. I think that you got a guy that's brilliant, cerebral, who can play guard and as well as play the center role. I think that would be the pick.
To what extent are the Cowboys going away from this recent history of building with the majority of their assets on offense and shifting over to defense?
Yeah, it's definitely been noticeable. I mean, as someone who started covering the Cowboys in 2019, I had a lot of catching up to do in terms of gathering a bit of a frame of reference in terms of how they invest, across their roster. But there's some, fortunately, really good, first writers at the Dallas Morning News and elsewhere that helped me be up to speed a bit, including David Moore, who did an expansive look at this very topic recently. But also, the certain websites like overthecap.com, I believe, is one example where they have year-by-year breakdown of where teams are spending, both by position group and offense versus defense. And it's very clear that more than most teams, the Cowboys have pointed and lean more into that offensive area. And, you look at where they're paying their running back, where they're paying certain members of their offensive line, quarterback, with Amari Cooper was more so. But, yeah, that they've been tilted toward offense for a really long time. And when you have some of these players on defense that the Cowboys have, and certainly young ones that they've been able to identify and draft through the draft, Micah Parsons, Jerry Jones might need to prepare a loan for that extension when that comes down the road. There's going to be more of a balance that naturally will come based on how the Cowboys have worked and operated at the draft. They want to be a draft and develop organization. Well, a big part of that is rewarding the players that you draft and develop. And so be it Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs, we'll see how they all go. But no doubt, over the course of time, you might see a little bit more balancing just based on the way the drafts have played out.
All right, so basically he was talking about the aspects of like the money where they tend to go with. Now, if you're looking at this draft and you're already thinking about worrying about paying Parsons, then your team is already flawed, right? If you're already thinking about and worried about paying Trayvon Diggs or CeeDee Lamb, then your team have the wrong mindset. You should be trying to get more and more pieces around those guys and understand, let the money be the money. This money, the salary cap is increasing anyhow. So don't play political football with this. Don't try to squeeze out Parsons and say, well, I don't want to really put him at edge because he'd make too much productions off of the edge, and you got to pay him like a linebacker. You got to pay him not like a linebacker. No. But let me put this link right here. Click that link and you have watched the full video and audio with that link. It's on YouTube. Shout out to 105.3 The Fan. They're growing, and be sure to help them grow with liking and subscribing to their account there. All right, so I've seen some people say Green is better than Zion. That's relative, right? Because it depends on how you're going to utilize Green in this particular uniform. I did hear some news that Green he having some type of knee issues that may drop his stock as it relates to the draft situation. I've seen some people say he may fall into the second round because of his knees. And one thing you don't want to have as a guard is bad knees, a la Ron Leary, right? But even with bad knees, Ron Leary was good for us. But you don't want to start your career with the badness, right? I just think that Zion is stronger. He bench pressed 225 32 times, right? And he was throwing it around like it was nothing. And Kenyon Green, he was only able to do it 20 times. Now, I don't know if that knee pain got all the way up to his bench pressing, but I want somebody who can move some stuff out the way on a consistent basis, not on for one or two plays. And I need some endurance at that spot. And I never want to have, again, the questionable lack of strength in that guard spot. I want the strongest, the baddest man at that spot. Time out for all of the, hey, he's technically sound. We had that technically sound guy last year, Connor Williams, right? He was technically sound, right? He was quick. But every time he got beat, he kept on reaching, and the opposing team was teaching. Lamar says, I got shanked with the butter knife. That's funny, dog. Wide receiver in the first or the fifth year option, that would help with Lamb, Diggs, and Parsons' payday. That's only if that wide receiver that you get in the first balls the you know what out, and then you can operate that 5th-year option. Here's the key. Here's the key to that. Normally, and I'm going to be transparent, normally when a player makes it to the 5th-year option and you grant them the 5th-year option, they've been horrible as a player. They have been horrible as a player. See, what you want to do as it relates to this salary cap, you want to read them up before the contract expires. You don't want to wait till the contract expires, and you don't want them to go into their final year of their contract plan, because technically it's like a 1-year deal, and if they get hurt, they know that they're for sure that they're gone. They're done. So for the Cowboys' sake, it will be wise for this year for CeeDee Lamb and Trayvon Diggs to technically have it in their mind that this is a contract year. So when they balling out of control and they going crazy, midway through the season, the Cowboys front office reach out to them and say, hey, you guys been balling out. This is your 3rd year. The NFL grant us the ability to extend your contract within the 3rd year. We're going to work on that deal now, so that we wouldn't have this whole fiasco that's going on now with Deebo, McLaurin, A.J. Brown, D.K. Metcalf. They swabbling about money. They're not showing up in OTA, in voluntary meetings because of the money. You don't want that to be hanging over the Cowboys' head. And trust me, everything is magnified with the silver and blue. But I appreciate you, though, with your thinking on that. Don't shank me with the butter knife, though. Can we draft? This is my guy, OC. No, my guy, Jay Versick. I'll call you the OC. Can we draft in the OC? Because the one we got doesn't like to run the ball. Add toughness to the HC, which is the head coach as well, and possibly a new Stephen Jones. You know, that would be good, Jay Versick. I don't know why I called you the OC, but Jay Versick, you sounded like the OC. Yeah, that pretty sounds good. Here's the thing. I think that Kellen Moore is a brilliant guy. I think that Kellen Moore can draw up some good passing plays, right? The philosophy of Kellen Moore is good. But the understanding to win and to know to run the ball is horrible. And 2 things can happen for that. Either he need the experience, right? Or he just don't know how to. Now, he's going into his 4th year ever. I want you guys to understand this. His 4th year ever calling plays in the National Football League. So he's still wet behind the ear. Normally, in a collegiate setting, he'll be a senior, right? Hopefully, this is his senior year calling plays. We should see him act like a senior out there calling plays. And he'll graduate at the end of this year, by the way, right? But I appreciate you, Jay Versick. Let me see. And he doesn't know how to adjust in games. Yeah. You're right, Tino. He don't know how to adjust in games. And hopefully his senior year, he make the necessary adjustments here, Cowboy Nation. And that's what we're looking for. Law, do you think our next running back is in this draft? If so, who? I ran a few mocks. I listened to some of the Cowboys beat writers, and I thought of it. This is also, speaking of contract, this is a contract year for Tony Pollard, right? And one can argue that this is a contract year for Ezekiel Elliott, right? Because I believe majority of his guaranteed money goes away at the end of this year, and then you can start contracting, or you can start evaluating his play time, and you can start creating the evacuation process. But I think that this team, if they want to go far, they need to adapt the philosophy of a dual set running back, meaning don't give the job only to Ezekiel Elliott and don't give the job only to Tony Pollard. Give both of these boys a chance and opportunity to run the ball. I believe that would be the best philosophy for this particular team. And I could be 1,000,000% off, right? But I believe that's the situation. Now, as far as if the Cowboys draft a Kenneth Walker or if the Cowboys go out there and say, okay, we bring in Isaiah Spiller, right? And that could be a situation. It would still be, when would they get a chance to get out there on the field? Jay Versick, 235 people watching and only 75 likes. Come on, man. Y'all mean to tell me you watching?
You must be out of your goddamn mind.
And y'all ain't hitting that like button, sharing this thing? Come on.
Shame.
Come on, man. Let me hit it again. If you watching right now and you haven't hit that like button and you haven't shared, come on.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
Shout out to you, Jimmy, on the Facebook, man. Thank you for the 99 stars. Shout out to you, Junior, Waylon, and James Tucker. Appreciate you. Zeke is what the F up. I'm sorry. Zeke was the. I think you're saying wash, huh? Hey, leave Zeke alone, man. Leave Ezekiel Elijah Elliott alone. I have strong hope. That's my word for this year is I'm hoping that he can stay healthy, and then I'm hoping that this offensive line can get their mind together and we can just run this thing the best way possible. I just hope that this team can find out those ways to get back to putting the ball in the belly of Ezekiel. Let me see if I can find that clip right quick. But I know for sure we got this Tony Pollard right here. Let me just show y'all Tony while I'm looking for this other one. If they do go back to this particular look where they utilize both running backs, I think that this team will be a whole lot better than what they were before. And on top of that, Cowboy Nation, if you look at Tony Pollard going into his contract year, here we go. My Ezekiel Elliott film right here. Y'all bear with me while I pull this one all the way to the top. But Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, you want to do it. That's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to showcase his talent with both boys out there on the field. I do. I'm going to have to do that one. But here goes Ezekiel Elliott, too. What about Rico? Look, my thing is with Rico, he got to stay healthy, man. That hip, Rico got that hip messed up. And when that hip messed up, man, he was out for the count. Landlord from Alabama. I don't think their mindset, aggressively speaking, I guess, take what they give us. How can you aggressively take a check down? Oh, how can you aggressively take a check down? Now, that's a good observation, Landlord. Appreciate you for jumping in. Now, he ain't talking about Rico Gathers. He talking about Rico, the running back. I forgot his last name. I look at it like this. Cowboy Nation and everybody that's listening, hear me out. If they're playing quarters, if they're playing in that pass defense, and we are just taking the underneath, we're dropping back. Dak Prescott is not squeezing the trigger on challenging the defense as it relates to throwing the ball into double coverage, and I don't want Dak Prescott to do that, by the way. I think that the winning formula would be this. Run the ball when they are playing in that quarters defense. Get back to that mindset. If you go and get a guard, I think that everything else will work its way out. You keep Terrence Steele, I'm about to say Tyrant Steele, but keep Terrence Steele at right tackle. You have Zach Martin at right guard. Tyler Linderbaum going into his third year, I believe his third year, right? He's going into his third year. You just have to wait on that. I think I've read somebody comment earlier, one of the problems with Dallas Cowboys, they don't allow their players to develop as draft picks. Normally, it takes 3 years to fully evaluate a draft pick. That's the reality of it. And whoever you get at guard out of this draft, you insert him in with Tyron Smith, and if everything happened crazy, you still have your backup tackle as Ball, and I think everything will work its way out. As much as we look at this team, we were not 5-12, we were 12-5 last year. And that goes a long way. Biadasz, not Linderbaum. They saying Tyler Linderbaum is dropping now, So there's so many things. I love the draft. I can't wait for this thing to be over with, Cowboy Nation. I can't wait. All right, I talked to y'all long enough, Cowboy Nation. Be sure to hit that like, share this content. I thank everybody for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe if you like what you heard today, and sharing is caring. I will be live a little later on when they do the presser, and I will be prepping up for that. And I will also talk about, on a shorter video, about Dak Prescott and his determination to become better. He says Dak 7. There were 7 other quarterbacks that were drafted in front of Dak Prescott, and he using that as a motivation. He using that as a chip on his shoulder, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, using something as a chip on your shoulder to see if you can get back to the graces of your mind, right? It's all about the mindset. I recall a quarterback that got pretty much six Super Bowl rings. Don't he got 6, or don't he have 7? How many Super Bowl rings do Tom Brady have? I forgot. The man have too many rings. But he still used that chip on his shoulder that he was drafted in the later rounds. And you got to figure things out for yourself, right? There's one thing a man should always do. Mainly to himself, be true. Never let someone change your point of view. And if he somehow does, make sure that it makes sense to you. Write that part down, Cowboy Nation. You see, this world, it is what it is. And I come here to tell you guys right now, if you're seeking things, it will find you. He got 7 rings. God, dog, that's too many rings for one person to have. He's Lord of the Rings now. God, dog, he man got so many rings I stopped counting, right? But never judge a man by sight alone or by the height he has grown. And when speak in a moderate tone. You see, in the beginning, it was brother, I would kill for brother. That was the morals of life. Love, live, and respect for another. Y'all know how that goes, right? But then there are those who try to be smart. You see, they'll take a decent man and they will alter his heart. And the reality of it, they keep trying to tear that man apart. See, man like that, those man, you shouldn't call them friends, nor your teammate. No, you shouldn't do that. But in the reality of it, stay away from them. Stay away. They'll bend lies around the truth until it meet their end. Stand tall. Make this life yours. Cowboy Nation. DC for life. I'm about it. I'll talk to y'all later. Let's go. Salute. Yeah, credits. Lamar, I got shanked by the butter knife. Salute to you, my brother. Jay Versi, landlord from Alabama. Shout out to you, Michael. He's a real one, baby. He's subscribed. Let's go.
If you're down in my management,
Let's
I'm just
go.
warming up a way till I overproduce all the
Manifested, baby.
colors in my baggy life.
Yeah.
Chalk it up. Talk of the town where you're talking up.
Imitated but never duplicated. Let's continue to grind, baby.
I used to be quiet and
Come
out
on.
of luck. Now I move up and move humble cause the hate and the jealousy. My mama telling me count up your blessings and run it up.
Yeah.
Nowadays nothing really excites me. Only one of me and nobody like me. Phone ringing and I tell him it's I got wifey on bling and she freeze.
Oh, I used the wrong one. Smoke string, baby. Politicians usually work with the blue smoke and mirrors. What appears to be real is mostly an illusion. And what is unlikely turn out to be real, but sometimes the blue smoke and mirrors don't work. When you can't produce a budget, you can't call you can call a news conference and pretend you did. Write that one down, screenshot that one. You know, that's what smoke and mirrors do, right? Let's go. Let me play this one again. Bam, turn me up.
All on live acting surprised, but you was fooled. Boy, get out the way, it's been a day, now you're old news. Now you got the pen and pad, you're trying to take my moves. Nowadays, nothing really excites me. Only one of me and nobody's like me. Phone ringing and I tell him it's I got wifey on bling and she freeze. Photo, please, no photos.
Watch how that beat kick in.
Please,
Don't spill your coffee, yeah.
Nowadays, nothing really excites me. Only one of me and nobody's like me. Phone ringing and I tell him it's I got wifey on bling and she freeze. Photo, please, no photos. Jeez, no, please, no photos.
Hey, stop, Steve, come back, Steve.
Jerry.
Well, we're going to have a good business, but settle down just a little bit. I don't have patience to jack with you today.
We up out, baby.